So yes, thank you so much, Robin, for joining me today. And I did receive your email. I'm not sure if I confirmed it with you, but you were the extensive of your response. It's beautiful, and I thank you for taking the time and sharing this with me. Um, I do a lot of ums. Thank God for editing. um, but let's see. If you wanted to get started right to the questions, let me know what you prefer to answer. It's like I said, this is a safe space, and if there's any questions that you prefer not to answer through this audio, I can use the answers that you provided to me. So this is all your control. So whatever you
I'm
like to share with
I'm
me.
open to answering any and everything,
Okay.
nothing to hide.
Okay. Very good. Very good. So could you tell our listeners your name, please, and what are we talking about today? Who are we talking of the story of today?
My name is Robin Johnson, and I'm the aunt of Armani Morgan. Armani was my nephew, and the purpose of this podcast today is to help to put his story out to the public because he hasn't received that part of justice, as of yet, since his disappearance and us first learning about his tragic death. So this is my way of helping to get his story out to the public, since our local news media and also law enforcement has failed in that aspect of helping us to get his story out, and I'm just one voice, but I try to spread it, as far as I can.
Sorry, I make sure that I'm on mute because I have dogs, but thank you. Thank you. Now I myself fall into the LGBTQ community. I myself also a minority that falls under two minority groups, Mexican and Black community. So I have and on top of that, I'm a female. Like one of the four collections of probably the worst scenario being, the statistics of a marginalized community, the statistics of if something happened to me, would there be any justice? And, for that matter, being a person of color and also in the LGBTQ community, it's almost like it's a high percentage. And I will probably plug in the percentage when I do some more research in regards to that, when I edit the podcast. But it's up there. And it's extremely heartbreaking that because you want to be free and you want to be who you are and you're not hurting anyone,
Right.
but yet you're considered a risk or to be feared. And it's sad. Some people.
And it's all because of their insecurity, their self insecurity.
Exactly. One of the other questions is, let's see, man, you have beautifully written out these questions, and I feel like I was like, I don't know if I should keep asking her the same thing, but it's practice makes perfect, because if you are continuing to do this fight, justice for Armani, these questions are maybe even more to come that are tougher. Another path that you have to go down through with another, maybe a news reporter, or having sit downs with those big shows, or having to walk with a crowd of people on a megaphone, or you have to be prepared for the unexpected. And these and other questions are to come, especially if you're being a voice that's trying to be amplified for someone who is not here, who is absent because of their death or their early passing, their unexpected being taken from you.
You're absolutely right. And what I've always said and will continue to say is that Armani lived his life the way he lived it. Although he was not a perfect person, it still didn't give anyone the right to take his life. And at this point, there is nothing to hide. We've all done some things in our past that we're not extremely proud of, and it's not going to be approved by everyone. But still, again, when it's time for our life to be over here on earth, that's nobody's choice but God. And, that is just a violation all the way around, all across the board, for someone else to take that choice into their hands, to take his life. So, that part of it, what are we going to hide now? He's no longer here.
Exactly. Yeah. And this is where you come in and take that megaphone in his honor, because he needs to be heard. His life, his voice needs to be amplified for justice. And I'm glad that you're here with me, Robin. So quickly, I think we might have skipped over it, but I think just how would you describe Armani? And if you wanted to use, because I know you identified that he uses pronouns, he,
Mhm.
him. So yeah, please tell the listeners a little bit more about Armani and uh what did he value most in life?
Um, Armani was a fun-loving and joking person. He wanted everyone around him to always be happy, no matter what the issues or the circumstances were. And the fact that he was an only child, he loved love. He wanted to be loved, and he wanted to show everybody love. And to his downfall, he just wanted everybody to be his friend, and wanted everybody around him to like him, But as we all know in life, everyone around you doesn't always have your best interest, at heart. And to a fault, that's where he was naive, that the people he surrounded himself with, he assumed that they were his friends. And people use the word friend very loosely, but with what happened to him, and the fact that none of these people that so called themselves his friend and would go to Facebook and he was my friend and I loved him. Okay, but where is that love and support? When you haven't gone to authorities to even tell what you know, or to even tell about things leading up to and surrounding his disappearance, because by him being an only child, he would surround himself with a lot of people that we knew about, but we didn't actually know them personally. And but one thing I can say about him is that he grew up without his biological father, and that hurt him to the core. And it was clear and it was evident that that was always a struggle for him. But prior to my dad passing in 1999, my father was the only father figure in Armani's life. And so once my dad passed, that deeply affected Armani. And for a while he was that caused him to associate himself with people that meant him no good. And so that led to him being around people at the wrong time, wrong place. Everything about it was wrong. But even though we're family, and we say to one another when we see things are not going in the right direction, you just need to be careful, because as teenagers they're going to do what they want to do regardless as to what we say. And by him being the only male in the immediate family, grandson, nephew, cousin, for he came into the family, and it was just like he was always, even from an infant, he was just rambunctious, and always had a smile on his face, even when he was infant, even into toddler, into teenage, and he was, and also too, he was a latchkey kid. His mother still works in home health, so she would have to leave home by a certain time because she was always on public transportation. So that left him to make sure that he get himself off to school on time. And he did it for a while. Then he started hanging around children, even in elementary, that wanted to do things their way. But then at that point is when I had to step in. I was like, okay, mom is working, so you got to do what you got to do because she's doing what she needs to do for you. So I had to start getting on to him at that point to make sure he stayed on the straight and narrow when it came to school. And he always wanted to be with my two daughters. And I also raised another niece as well, and also had a hand in raising Armani, and to a certain extent, until he just thought he was just too grown. But he was a fun-loving person, loved fashion, loved cooking, and he wanted everybody to always come together, especially around the holidays and birthdays. He just, like I say, he loved love. He just loved to see everybody happy. Never wanted to see anybody without a smile on their face. And when he would enter the room, everything lights up, because he's the life of the party when he walked in. And that's just who he was. That's just who he was.
Yeah, thank you for sharing it, because I think that gosh, latchkey kid, it is so hard for people to understand the struggles of a single parent or just a co-parenting situation, and you have to have your kids are somewhat close to young age to kind of take care of themselves, because you gotta head on out to that uncomfortable shift, because I work night shift. So that's the reason why I took a nap, because I'm like, I just got home from 7 o'clock this morning and I don't know if I could hold out. But I know, and then I used to be a latchkey kid in the 70s and 80s. So it's huh, you gotta learn to grow up real quick.
Exactly.
Real quick.
Exactly. And that's a part of how he became to hang out with some of the unsavory characters that he did associate himself with, because not only was he a latchkey kid, but quite a few of the other ones were latchkey kids as well. So, they grew up a little faster than the other children that had a two-parent household. But I remember when Armani was in the 7th grade, he had began to try to skip school in the 6th grade. And I was like, no, we're not having that. And so when he did make it to the 7th grade and decided he wanted to try to hang out with certain people that meant him no good and wanted to try to skip school one day, when he walked into the classroom on many occasions, I was already sitting in a desk. And when his classmates walked in and they could tell the look on his face was different, they wanted to know, okay, well, who is this person, already sitting here? And I would sit there throughout the entire class. And then I would also follow him from class to class and sit in the classroom. That's just how much time I had on my hands, and, was invested in him getting his education, because I'm a stickler for education, with my two girls, so I wanted him to be the same way, because education is a key, to your entire life, regardless as to which career path you choose. So when he would walk into that classroom and see me, it just seemed like he said, and all the air just,
Oh man.
all the air just went out, but it paid off to get him through middle school. But then once he reached high school age, he was just more determined that he just didn't want to go to school anymore. So once they reach a certain age, it's just hard to kind of reel them back in. But then I also expected for his mom to also, even though she was working, to work with me to work with him, versus you always focusing on getting to work on time. It's sometimes, you have to let that take a back seat to make sure that he's on the right path.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So
Oh, for
yeah.
sure. Oh my God, I could just see his face. Like, oh man.
And
Yeah,
they know
bro.
his classmates noticed that he wasn't as talkative. He wasn't doing the regular class clown things that he would do, the days that I would not go. But the days when I would be in this classroom already, when he showed up, first period of the day, I'm there. And even when he took economics class, this is where baking, skills and teaching them how to
Mhm.
handle money and things, you're at home, you're cooking for yourself. So you should be, more than willing to show the teacher that, I can take care of myself, because he had to learn how to cook,
Mhm.
because he was at home a lot, by himself prior to his mom, getting off work and taking public transportation back home, so, it wasn't good for him to just be there always eating sandwiches and things. So he wanted hot meals. And that's why he learned to cook. He became a
Gosh.
good cook too.
Yeah. Wow. I haven't economics, they don't even do that anymore. Like
Mhm.
that was back in the day.
Yes.
Oh, and nowadays, I even had like finance management, like
Mhm.
marketing. And
Mhm.
that was in the early, early 90s, late 80s in elementary school. They were teaching us like, you better learn how
Mhm.
to manage your money. Make sure you get you never starve. And I want to go right back to exactly what you were mentioning, Robin, is that the best thing to have, I think I even heard this from a quote listening to another podcast that I listened to. Oh, I love this. I love this podcast. But they were saying with the education with, you know, the Black community, the Hispanic community, anyone person of color,
Mhm.
with all the systemic racism that goes on, with all the things that has been taken away from us, they
Mhm.
can take they can take our clothes, our house, our money,
Mhm.
our jobs, but they can never take what we have from education.
That's true.
And that is the most powerful tool
Yes.
for anyone, but it's
That's
even
true.
more powerful resource and tool for people of color. And I was like,
Exactly.
that's right. That hits a good point. And yeah, my gosh, my gosh.
Mhm. Because, even though I don't have a background in uh, the legal field, I've had to do a lot of research and do a lot of legal things on my own because of the lack of assistance through law enforcement. And even though there's a DA assigned to Armani's case, whenever I reach out to the medical examiner's office and the forensic lab, asking them questions directly, this one particular DA always is the response. you know, the medical examiner never responds directly back to me. This district attorney is always the one to respond. And it's when this person will tell me no, which I've heard a million times, during my fight for justice for Armani. But when you tell me no, that just sets a fire under me even more, because you're telling me no lets me know that I'm hitting all the right notes, because when you tell me no, explain to me why you're telling me no. Don't just tell me no and walk away.
Right.
So I've had to learn a lot.
Mm. Now, and how long have okay, so I guess I might even go back even because I think I would love to I'll go through all the questions and I think that I also mentioned that I like to talk, I like to go off on a tangent and just kind of
Mhm.
veer off in conversation, but I think that's considered natural, just a conversation amongst two people.
Mhm.
So if it goes beyond our time on this link, I will
Mhm.
send you another link in regards to, and then we'll continue on with the questions. But
Okay.
I'll go ahead and ask the questions that I have, and I think at the very end, if we haven't hit on the subject in regards to what led up to Armani and his passing and
Mhm.
who was involved, et cetera, because I want to get to that because from what I was trying to read in Uncovered, that was removed, and
Mhm,
I couldn't do any more additional research on it because all I had was a newspaper clipping, and that was it. That
mhm.
was it, and I prefer not to go by that. I like to go by someone who knows that person.
Right,
That's gold. That's genuine. You know,
right.
if they love that person enough to be talking about them, to shout their name to the mountaintops, then it's gonna be genuine and truthful. News articles are just gonna put clout and try to get their ratings up or to whatever, to
Exactly.
over exaggerate things, and then they make this
Mhm,
person look like they're the worst person in the world and
mhm.
like almost like a circus show. Like here's the main act and look at this person. Oh, and it's like a circus. It's like a circus thing for me. I really don't like listening to,
Mhm.
watching, reading news articles because it's not even barely the truth of who that person was.
And you're absolutely right. And that was the reason that I asked Lexis to take down the uncovered timeline information that she had because she wasn't willing to state the facts versus what was incorrect in the Dallas police report.
Mm,
And also, her one of her subtitles said that Armani's death was a mysterious death. And I told her there's nothing mysterious about his death. The fact that he was relentlessly pursued by one of the three perpetrators, there's nothing mysterious about it because this person tracked him like an animal, and this was the female was one of the three perpetrators, and then there were two males.
mm,
And this female and Armani got into a disagreement about money, and just to explain it, because like I said, I have nothing to hide.
mhm,
What she would do was solicit Armani's help every month for more than 2 to 3 years with selling a portion of her food stamps in exchange for money to purchase drugs.
mm,
And so she knew that Armani knew a lot of people. And not only that, the same-sex partner that Armani was involved with actually called himself a low-level drug dealer. So that was her connection to always be able to obtain these drugs. So if she would ever run out of money and wouldn't have the money to purchase it, she would use our money and his relationship with his same-sex partner in order for her to also obtain drugs until the following month, to where she would replenish her food stamps, and then she would still get our money to help her sell a portion of them in exchange for money in order to buy drugs. So this was a drug deal. I call it a drug deal gone bad at
mm,
one point, because according to my youngest daughter, who is a year older than Armani, she knew Armani's comings and goings and his whereabouts more than his mom. And my sister Armani's mom would say to me, he would tell your daughter things that he wouldn't tell me. I said, but in a way that's beneficial, because at least if something is going on with him that he's not comfortable enough to share it with you, at least he's comfortable enough to share it with a relative that he's close to. And he would call my daughter oftentimes to come and get him when he's gotten into a physical altercation with someone. And at least two different occasions, my daughter had to go to where he called her to and take him to the closest emergency room, because the physical altercations were just that violent. And Armani was a tall, slender person as he continued to grow. But one thing about him, you couldn't underestimate him with being able to protect himself and defend himself. That's one thing a lot of people always underestimated about him, until that physical altercation got underway and they were like, okay, well, wait a minute. He's a little bit stronger than what I, thought. And they thought they would be able to overtake him and just take advantage of him. But once that altercation started, it was a whole nother situation, and
mm, mm,
so this female and Armani fell out about that food stamp exchange for money. And what exactly happened with it, none of us will know details of what happened, but she alleged that Armani stole her food stamps and, did whatever with it. But eventually she told the truth to law enforcement because she knew that that story wasn't going to stand. Okay, you have a 4-digit PIN code to this card for your benefits every month. How did Armani obtain it if you say he stole? So eventually she said, well, I did give it to him one time for him to go to the store. Okay, but no, just tell the truth. You were selling your food stamps in exchange for money to buy drugs, and eventually she broke down and told that part of it. But, just unfortunately, law enforcement just refused to include that in their reports, that she, admitted to this is the problem. And so the week of May 22nd, 2017 was the first violent attack against him by her and her 2 teenage sons. And each time she would assault Armani, she always had somebody helping her because she couldn't handle him alone. And she's a much bigger person and physically. And so the second instance when she violently assaulted Armani was the same day that a gunshot pierced through the living room window of Armani and his mom's apartment while Armani was laying on the sofa watching TV. Normally he would sit straight up and watch TV, but thank God this particular day he was laying down on the sofa, because had he been sitting straight up, that bullet would have went straight through his head. And normally my daughter would frequent Armani in his mom's apartment and hang out with Armani there and sit on the sofa watching TV or doing whatever. And this particular day she was at work and he was laying on the sofa watching TV. But prior to that, this female tried to lure him outside the day before and also on the day that the gun bullet pierced through the living room window. So the fact that she couldn't lure him outside, I guess she said, well, okay, well, I'll bring him outside. Then at this point, gun bullet pierced through the living room window. Now, mind you, no security surveillance cameras in the apartment complex captured the shooting incident, nor would any of the bystanders that were outside at the time of the shooting, nor were they willing to identify this person because this female once lived in this same apartment complex for many years prior to her moving to another part of town. So this person still had acquaintances that were not willing to turn her in to law enforcement, at the time of the shooting. So as Armani's mom is going to the leasing office to view surveillance cameras with the leasing manager, is when Armani was attacked right outside his front door by this particular female and her young daughter. And a brief cell phone video of this altercation, they posted it on Facebook. So I was able to actually obtain that brief cell phone footage and give it to the initial lead homicide detective, but he did nothing with it. He did nothing with it. And so 3 days after the shooting and the second violent attack, June the 3rd, is when this female again relentlessly pursued him. She sought him out. She would know his whereabouts and who he would hang out with and where he would normally go. So she was checking all of these places and she eventually tracked him down. And so her and another guy, which is her co-perpetrator, they cornered Armani and they violently assaulted him at this point. And this particular day, it was brutal. It was truly brutal. And so after that altercation, Armani did go and visit 2 of his female friends, and I can truly call these 2 ladies friends, because they have participated and cooperated with law enforcement at my request, explaining what happened the day that Armani came to them, which was the last day he was last seen alive. He was bloody, when he went to them and explained to them who had violently assaulted him. And once he left them, which was in the same apartment complex where Armani lived, he was never seen alive again. So don't know what happened to him, in which direction he went in once he left that apartment complex on June the 3rd. But that was the last time he was seen alive, at that point. But then also too, the guy that he was in a same-sex relationship with was very violent, physically violent with Armani as well. So the same-sex partner, the male co-perpetrator, and this female perpetrator, all three of them knew each other very well, and they all had it out for Armani. So our family, and with people talking from the streets, all three of these people had something to do with him being deceased.
Hmm.
Don't know the full details of it, but 90% of what people in the streets would tell me, and I would go to law enforcement with it, turns out it was true. Turns out it was true. Anything that I would tell the homicide detective, okay, well, will you look into this and will you look into that? Turns out it was true. Turns out it was true. And so when the law enforcement went to interview this one female that told me she would be willing to talk to law enforcement to tell them about incident where Armani and the female perpetrator and this other female were all in a car together and went to visit the same-sex partner in order to obtain drugs. But this female perpetrator denied it. She denied it, denied it, denied it, but the other female gave the details of that day as to what happened. And come to find out, once the homicide detective actually looked into it, everything that I was told was true. And so that's what angers me so much, is that when I would get this information, tidbits from people in the street, and I was like, okay, well, why wouldn't you be willing to go and let the detective hear it from you versus you telling me and I'm having to go and tell? That's third-hand information, But you all get on Facebook and he was my friend and I loved Armani, and I was like, oh my God.
Okay.
So
Okay.
and
See,
so
I've never understood that. I've never understood that, and that's probably the reason why. If I have friends, these are friends that I've known for 20 something, 30 something, since elementary, high school, back in the day, whatever. Though these
and you can
today,
truly call them a friend. You
yeah,
can truly say that they are your friend.
these today friends,
Mm-mm, mm-mm.
today friends or fake friends. I don't understand. There's no genuinity and loyalty and just compassion for each other without having that some type of stabbing object tucked behind their arm or whatever. Regardless of how they
Exactly.
are treated. Like if you want to be respected, if you want to have a genuine friendship with people, and if you want to have, a support group and a community or whatever, stop acting like a damn fool.
Exactly.
Like,
Exactly.
these fake
And
people.
that's the question that I've posed to each and every one of these people, except for the two young ladies who have come forward and actually spoken with the homicide detective. Back in December of 2019, this filming company, entertainment company, should I say, company flew from the UK here to Texas to do a scissor reel that they were 100% sure would be picked up, by entrepreneurs or some of their other business partners in order for them to make the documentary happen. And once I had an attorney to look over that contract, the attorney was a contract attorney and informed me that if my family and I were to sign off on it, we would have been signing away our rights, and they would have had all the rights to the story. And anytime or in the event we would do anything with another company or anybody, a journalist or news media or anybody else, then it would be an issue, because of the fact that we would have signed away all of our rights to the story. We would no longer be able to tell it freely, as his family. So, that, like I said, that fell through and we didn't get that opportunity. And they'd come back about 2 or 3 different times saying, well, let's work something out. Okay, well, there's nothing to work out if you're not completely willing to change the wording, because you're not going to take away our right to tell his story. You're just not going to do that. So that was, one missed opportunity. But I consider the main missed opportunity is for Dallas police and their homicide division to not actively pursue and investigate Armani's disappearance and his murder, simply due to the initial homicide detective's bias, his discrimination, and his predetermined theory about Armani's manner of death. Because he sat across the conference room table in the first meeting with Armani, mom and I, immediately following Armani's graveside ceremony, to look us in the face to tell us that he believed Armani OD'd in a field, in that vacant field, which was a few feet away from the residence Armani shared with his mom. And I'm like, you've had this case all of 17 days. So this is your investigation? You investigate in 17 days and can tell us from skeletonized bones that he went and laid up against a tree in a vacant field and decided to OD and die? When he was at home alone by himself countless number of days. If he wanted to commit suicide or OD, he could have done it at home.
Right. That
And
doesn't make
then,
any
yeah,
Keep going.
and that's his assumption,
Okay.
And when I challenged him on it and kept coming back with facts, just kept coming back with facts. And one thing about me, post office taught me, if it's not in black and white, it didn't happen. So I would always text or email him. These were our communications. I'm not going to do a phone call when it's your word against mine. We're going to put it to where when you tell me something and then you go back on it or you say it didn't happen, I have it in a text message or I have it in an email.
Yeah.
And I had it in a text message, and I told him, I said, well, the fact that this female perpetrator relentlessly pursued him, and she would always have the aid of someone else, whether it's one person or 2 or 3 people, to help her to violently assault Armani. And then we have the fact that this same-sex partner always brandished a machete in order to instill fear into people that he wanted to have be afraid of him. And then you have this other co-perpetrator that was aiding the female perpetrator to violently assault Armani. Then you say that he OD'd in a field. So you have all of these people pursuing him, but then you say to his mother and I that he OD'd in a field.
That's
BS.
I'm sorry.
Well, that wasn't a theory. That wasn't my theory that I said, well, no, because you sat across the table and said it to us. I said, and it was very disrespectful. Very disrespectful. Well, no, that wasn't my theory. I said, well, no, I have it in the text message that you admitted this was your theory. So that to me was his way out. He and it negatively impacted Armani's investigation from the outset going forward. They didn't want to investigate because Armani had a prior arrest history, whether he was involved with this female perpetrator and they would go in and shoplift and then they would sell the things in order to get drugs, or if Armani was arrested for male prostitution, he would do that, from time to time to get his money for his drug habit. And like I said, I'm not ashamed to admit the things that he did prior to his sudden disappearance. But again, it still doesn't give anyone the right to take his life. And as I've said to authorities, if you have a problem with him, go to law enforcement. Let them deal with it. Because if you pursue a case enough, eventually, if what you're saying is factual and can be proven, then this person is going to be prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law based upon the evidence.
Oh, for sure. Oh my God.
Which is what police, the homicide detective will continue to tell us. Yeah, you can tell us all day long this and this happened and this person led you to this information, but until we can actually prove it, okay, but you have to investigate it to prove it. You sitting on your hands is not investigating.
Mm.
you know.
You see my facial expressions? My face is contorted. Like all I can smell is BS from all the way over here in regards to what they were saying, how they were saying it, how they were disrespecting you
Mhm,
across the table, just
mhm.
throwing nothing but lies, excuses, just excuse after excuse. Like this is, and you're right. Like the only way you can confirm this information is to do this damn
Investigate.
investigation.
Exactly.
It's
And
like a full circle. You want to
mhm,
know something?
mhm,
You got to do the research on it. You got to do the
mhm.
paperwork on it. And I think that was one of the things they didn't want to do all of that. They didn't see the worth in that. And it's like,
Exactly.
and then on top of that,
Because he
trying to
was a gay black male from an impoverished neighborhood raised by a financially challenged single mother.
right. They didn't
And
see it.
because of the neighborhood Armani lived in.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm,
They didn't
mhm,
see it as important or beneficial or impertinent
mhm.
uh on the desk as a priority. And I think that's BS.
It
Straight
is
up. Oh my God.
across the board.
Oh,
Across
across
the
the
board.
board
Mhm.
on all
And
charts. Across the board on different spreadsheets. PowerPoint presentation and all. It's
I
all
kept asking
wrong.
about the gun bullet.
Uh-huh.
I kept asking about this gun bullet, where this female perpetrator shot into the apartment. Mind you, I totally understand that you have to prove it, and the fact that that's no footage of her actually doing the shooting, but she called him 2 days, the day before and the day of the shooting, trying to lure him out of the house in order to violently assault him again. So once she couldn't lure him out of the house, then the gun bullet pierced through the window. That brought him outside because she had been trying to do it for 2 days. And then once he comes out, then there she is. She's automatically immediately on the scene to violently assault him. Okay, yeah, I know we can't prove that she actually shot into the apartment, but this gun bullet that landed on the dining room table inside Armani and his mom's apartment. um, I kept asking about this bullet. Uh, excuse me, let me get some water. With the he said he kept the lead homicide detective kept telling me, I will look into the gun bullet. I'll look into the gun bullet. At first, he kept telling me there was no gun bullet recovered, and I was like, no. I said because two uniformed detectives, um, retrieved the bullet, and they took photos inside the apartment of where the window was shattered, where the gun bullet made entrance. Mm-mm. And I asked about this gun bullet for 2 years, still nothing. And so I reached out to the police chief at the time, who was Renee Hall, female police chief in Dallas. Reached out to her assistant to request a face-to-face meeting with the chief of police to express my concerns about Armani's case not being actively pursued and investigated. This executive assistant told me there was a chain of command that I would need to follow before I was able to obtain a meeting with the chief of police. This went on for months, and they kept continue to put high-ranking police officers in front of me, and each time they would do nothing about what I was saying. Uh, this detective is biased. He's not actively pursuing the case. Anytime I asked about something, I'm told they would get back with me. Nothing ever happens. I said, and his case is constantly being pushed aside at the expense of other cases. We would meet with the homicide detective, and he would be watching his watch to go and take care of another case, or he would tell us that his newborn baby didn't have a babysitter. He would need to get to try to find a babysitter before he could meet. I was just like, this is just ridiculous.
Okay. Hmm.
And this went on for a while until went up that chain of command and was finally able to get a meeting, face-to-face meeting with the assistant chief of police, who was a male. And he sat down with myself and my youngest daughter on June the 17th, 2019, 2 years later.
Mm.
And I was telling him, I said, we're just frustrated. We're frustrated. Everything that we bring to the detective, he says he's going to look into it. Nothing ever happens. I can understand they're doing things behind the scenes that they're not going to tell us everything that's going on. I totally get that. But when I ask you, have you looked into a certain tip that I've given you or certain information, and you tell me you're going to look into it, okay, if you've looked into it, say, yes, I've looked into it and I'm working on it and I can't give you any information or details, I'll accept that. But you keep telling me you're going to look into it, you're going to look into it, and you never do. And then you're always giving me the excuse about your baby, you don't have a babysitter, and you just, it's not working for me.
Mm-mm.
So the assistant chief of police removed that detective from the case and assigned it to a cold case detective. Oh, and he was no better.
Mm.
He did absolutely nothing. Only thing he did regarding Armani's case was to issue a search warrant for a specific telephone number that Armani had used prior to his sudden disappearance. And what that phone number we were hoping to reveal was conversations between Armani and his same-sex partner, because the same-sex partner was physically violent with Armani once Armani informed him that he no longer wanted to be in the same-sex relationship with him. So in between this female perpetrator assaulting him and then the same-sex partner violently assaulting him, and then the female perpetrator getting the co-perpetrator to help her, they were all assaulting him, simultaneous, and who knows what day all of these assaults happened, the ones that we didn't have firsthand information about. But we could say for sure that the same-sex partner brandished a machete that he would threaten Armani and anybody with, at this point. But the same-sex partner was arrested in August of 2017 on a different assault case, unrelated assault case, and the homicide, the initial homicide detective was able to interview the same-sex partner while he was in county jail, to ask him directly about his relationship with Armani. He denied it, that he was in a same-sex relationship with Armani, and he said to the detective, well, Armani was helping me to sell drugs and made away with some of my drugs. And I was just like, oh, they just accusing him of any and everything. I said, I'm not going to deny it. I said, but you would have to give me some proof, that he's doing all of these things you're saying he's doing. And as I say, he's not perfect, but everything that everybody alleged that he did, mighty strangely, you would always want to be in his presence, but you're accusing him of all of these things, now that he's no longer here to refute it and defend himself.
Exactly. I was just about to say that, like, he is not here to stand up and protect himself from being the scapegoat, pretty much, in regards to all their actions. And oh my God.
And another key thing I want to point out is that June the 3rd was the last day Armani was last seen alive. Ironically, the female perpetrator, the following day, June the 4th of 2017, files a police report alleging that Armani violently assaulted her on June the 3rd, trying to cover herself, And so I looked into consequences of a person filing a false police report, and was never able to get any legal information as to, whether this can be pursued or not. And what Dallas police told me was that people lie to the police all the time, and that I needed to contact the district attorney. I contacted the district attorney. A district attorney told me there was nothing that they could do about it. I need to go to the Dallas police. So I was like, okay, so you're telling me to communicate with them about it. They're telling me to communicate with you about it. So then what do I do? Because she did file a false police report, and this was her way of trying to, throw the police off of her track, because of what went on the day before. So I wasn't able to get anything done about that. But what I can say is that the assistant chief of police did verbally agree to submit that gun bullet for forensic testing. And my hope is that this female perpetrator's biological DNA can be extracted from that bullet, which will link her to the shooting.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
But the sad thing about that, though, Jasmine, is the fact that I was told 2 weeks ago that the statute of limitation on that deadly conduct by firearm shooting into Armani in his mom's apartment, the statute of limitation has expired on it, and we cannot pursue it any longer.
I had to cross my arms for this one, because I was waiting for something crazy for them to do a limitation of something. They give us no wiggle room to fight for justice, to fight for. Oh my God, I'm sorry. I'm a little flustered in regards to that, because I was like, wait, don't tell me you're gonna tell me there's gonna be a limitation of something. I swear, don't tell me, because I'm crossing my arms like, what?
Statute of limitation. But my thinking was that because I'm continuing to pursue it and was able to get the assistant chief of police to agree to forensic testing, why isn't this still allowing this case to remain open?
Exactly. There should be like some type of extension, because it's an ongoing investigation.
And you know what I read and found that there are exceptions to certain statute of limitations. And so I'm going to reach out to this district attorney that keeps responding anytime I reach out to anybody else, and I'm going to ask her, is there an exception to this particular statute of limitation? Because it wasn't like I was just sitting on my hands waiting on the police to come back to me. I'm waiting on evidence to come back from this gun bullet.
Exactly.
But what they tried to tell me in that meeting on June the 17th, 2019, the chief tried to explain it away. Anytime a gun bullet is fired out of a chamber, that fire from leaving that chamber destroys any evidence. But I have a female officer from another state that is called the Bordeaux method, to where biological DNA can be extracted from bullets, even though they've been fired from a gun.
I actually did a paper report in high school in regards to that, because I know, because I wanted, when I grew up, I was about to be prepared to go into, my goal was to be a forensic scientist when I graduated from high school. So I was dealing with ballistics. I was dealing with the ballistics and forensic scientists. I was dealing with pathologists and stuff like that. Oh no, oh, there is actually markings on how it when it leaves the gun, it has you can take a bullet and compare its marks, because it rotates in the barrel to identify which gun it came from. And I mean, there are so many things. I mean, I was in high school in 96, we are 27 years now, and I'm don't play this game about, oh, this can't be done, this can't be done. Please, girl, please.
They were always shocked and surprised that I would come back. Anytime they would tell me no about something, I would come back with facts. Okay, well, you said this, but this evidence proves that it can be done.
Good. Yes.
And that's the issue that they had with me. And then once the cold case detective just decided that he wasn't going to do anything about the case, even though he sat across the table from me at the police headquarters to tell me July the 10th, 2019, once the assistant chief reassigned him to investigate Armani's case and remove the initial homicide detective. He sat across from me, I'm going to do everything I can, and I'm going to re-interview this female perpetrator. I'm going to get it on video, because I saw her previous interviews to where I could tell she was lying. and I'm going to re-interview her and I'm going to put it on video. I'm going to record it. Never did it. When I would ask him about it, he would tell me, well, I'm still going to look into it. I even asked the initial homicide detective and the cold case detective if they would please listen to the same-sex partners county jail phone calls and his state prison phone calls, in hopes that he would say something about Armani's death that would lead us in the right direction. Never honored my request. It's going to take a long time to do it. Okay, well, you have nothing but time. Why won't you look into it? This is a family member asking you to do it, requesting you to do it. They've never done it. And so now that the Texas Rangers, I made a request for the Texas Rangers cold case unit to perform an investigative review of Armani's case to reopen his case. And what the Texas Ranger that was assigned to Armani's case did tell me was, he said, my Texas Ranger daily duties is going to take precedence over Armani's case. I said, I've heard that before. He said, I'm going to look into it in my spare time. So when is this spare time going to ever come about? So I'm back to square one. But
I'm so sorry, Robin, that you
I'm
had to go through. Yeah, please. Oh my gosh, please don't let this weigh or make you pivot on your heel. Keep going, because all these little obstacles that are being thrown at you, all these little barricades and all these excuses and all these little BS moves and these and this. Oh my gosh. And then the part where the cold case detective that was assigned to Armani is saying, I almost feel like he was running a campaign. I will do this for you, and I will get better at this, and I will do better at that. And then once you be like, okay, he BS'd his way through his teeth to get to what he needed to get to, just to kind of like throw you off and be like, as long as she's over there and I'm over there, and oh my gosh, it's just
exactly.
Oh my gosh.
And then this was July the 10th of 2019. So here we get to January the 2nd, 2020. And I hadn't heard from him in between all that. I'm emailing and calling him, and still he would tell me, I'll get back to you. I'll get back to you. I'll get back to you. And the day he did reach out to me and asked me if I would be available for a face-to-face meeting at police headquarters. And I'm like, yes, here I am, assuming that he's going to give me an update of something that he's been looking into. I get to police headquarters and I walk into an ambush meeting. It was the cold case detectives and two of his new supervisors. One of the supervisors was the supervisor of the homicide division. And this other officer, I don't know what role he played, in the homicide division, but he was a high-ranking officer as well. So these two gentlemen joined in the meeting. And as soon as I sit down at the conference room table, the homicide supervisor just started berating me and started belittling me and telling me, you've been all over the police department. You've been meeting with this person and you've been meeting with this high-ranking official about Armani's case. And we wasted enough money on Armani at this point. And I had to take a deep breath, because at that point, all the air just was just sucked out of the room. And I was like, wasted enough money on Armani? I was like, what do you mean? And he said, you visited with the assistant chief of police, and now you have a meeting with the chief of police. And he said, they don't run this department. They don't. Okay, well, you're talking about the chief and the assistant chief of police. You said they don't run this department. They run you, because you are underneath them, And I was just like, wow. And he went on and on with this berating and belittling. And I sat there and I told him, I said, and I asked the cold case detective who was sitting right across in front of me, I said, well, have you interviewed this female perpetrator yet? Because you assured me during our first meeting that you were going to do this and you were going to video. He said, no, I haven't. And I said, okay. I said, well, have you even looked into listening to the same-sex partners state prison phone calls and his county jail phone calls? No, I haven't. And he was just, short with me in this meeting. And I was just like, okay, so I see where this is going. And we had sat there 45 minutes by this time. And I said, okay, well, I see now what this meeting is all about. And I've had enough. So I stood up, grabbed my briefcase, and out the door I went. I said nothing else. But I went home and I immediately prepared an internal affairs citizen complaint.
Good.
And
good.
From what I was told, it was last year, this homicide supervisor was relieved of his duties because of my complaint. My thing is, if you guys tell me that you're looking into this and you're looking at how is his murder gonna ever be solved if you guys don't actively pursue and do what you tell me you're gonna do? Here I am thinking you're actively pursuing it when you're doing nothing. You're doing absolutely nothing.
Yeah, what even upsets me is to tell you that they've wasted enough money on the case. Dude, I pay your payroll, your salary with our taxes. So the longer you're going to take your time to do the investigation, that's on you. If you're not even lifting a finger to do anything and you just let it sit there and it's collecting, it's doing hourly time, on how long it's taking y'all to lift up the folder and look into and actually do your job, that's on you. No one's wasting no money on nobody.
That's what he told me.
I think the only thing is we're wasting money is on your income. Because you want to keep sitting there and acting like, oh yeah, I'll take care of that. Oh yeah, and then just to kind of blow you up. No.
And as it stands, I filed 3 internal affairs complaints, and they that's what they're using against me. They're holding that against me, but that's my right.
Exactly, it is. Absolutely.
So it is continuing to be an uphill battle, and it's a challenge that I'm ready for. and as I've said, telling me no is not going to deter me, and I keep telling them I'm not going anywhere. As long as God continues to allow me to have breath in my body and I'm still in my right mind, you will continue to see me and hear from me.
Yeah, one of the things that I found out is like when you tell a Black woman no, okay, well let me go try this side road right here real quick. Oh no, okay, let me go back over here in this corner over here and see if I can maneuver around. We will find a way to make it work. We've learned to fight and struggle and deal with all these obstacles all our lives. All this, being considered a marginalized and being in a systemic racist society, how we're being treated, how we looked upon, and it's like, my ancestors have been doing this for centuries. It's like literally embedded in our DNA. Like you want to play this trick? Okay, well, I got something for you, because no means maybe.
Yeah, exactly.
No means watch me.
Exactly. And I've asked repeatedly if the Texas Attorney General's newly formed cold case unit and the Texas Rangers cold case unit can simultaneously perform an investigative review of Armani's case. And what one of the deputy chiefs told me is that will be considered stepping on the other agency's toes. And I was like, okay, FBI investigate things all the time when another agency is doing something simultaneously. So why can't 2 different entities investigate his case at the same time? I don't see the harm in that.
Another excuse. I'm sorry.
But they won't respond to my direct request and question. about
Mhm.
it. But I'm not going to stop asking about it. And unfortunately, the assistant chief of police accepted another job in as chief of police in Tacoma, Washington, at the end of 2021. And so now I'm back to square one. And all of the other officers that are now retiring, and the new assistant chief has come in, the new chief has come in, nobody is responding to my emails and my phone calls. I want a meeting with the new staff, because I want to find out what you guys' intentions are. And I've asked too, okay, well, once this Texas Ranger has completed his investigative review of Armani's case, who's going to contact me and let me know it's completed?
Right.
You can't get a response to that,
Mm, mm, mm.
and they just don't know. I'm going to continue knocking on this door,
Mm.
and you're going to have to open it at some point and respond to me.
Right,
And
exactly.
and I have a paper trail. I create a paper trail. I've asked you this at this point, and you still haven't responded. I've asked you again and again and again, and you still haven't responded. But I'm
Mhm.
not going away.
Mm-mm.
You can discount that, because that's not happening.
You all I can say is you mess with the wrong Robin.
Yes, yes.
I am persistent, you are persistent, and you are determined, like,
Mhm.
"Oh, watch this.
Mhm.
Watch me."
And
I
and the fact that his mom is not in the mental state to fight, and my youngest daughter went as far as she could. She said, Mom, she said, they're just ignoring me, and I'm taking off work down here, risking my job, taking off going down here, and they're just giving me the runaround. And I was like, okay, well, I'll take it over, at this point, because I'm a whole nother person. You just can't tell me something, expect for me to go away. You're going to have to give me the facts, as to what, the reason for your determination, or your ruling, or what you say you can't do something. Why? You say no, and I say why.
Mhm.
You know,
Why,
but
yeah. Um, thank you so much, Robin. What I wanted to say, I was like, I did not know how close this case was, because I came to Texas in 2015, and I'm
mhm,
literally like 50 miles away from Dallas. Like
mhm,
literally.
mhm.
And mm, I would love to do something, because I'm
Okay.
physically in a vicinity of doing something and being part of something. If you got
Mhm.
something out there that you got and you want
Yes.
to have someone rally up and get things
Mhm.
going, I would love to use my platform, my social medias, everything in regards to, if you have anything set up, if you're going to, get your voice above and beyond what you're doing
Mhm.
right now, and you want, because I just got done speaking with a previous mother. She lives in San Antonio, and she is having the same type of scenario with law enforcement. That was the episode I just dropped yesterday.
Mhm.
And oh my gosh, like, if all us people of color, all
Mhm.
these women, all these powerful, beautiful
Yes.
kings and queens coming together,
Yes.
making it work,
Yes.
that's a beautiful thing. And
Mhm.
if we can do it, I mean, if you have anything set up, please, please let me know.
I
Um,
will. I will.
even after all this, even if some time goes by, and I
Mhm.
love to stay in connection with all my guests as much as possible, because I want, once I know you, once you got my email, we
Mhm.
fam.
Yes.
We fam.
Yes. Yes.
So
And
you got my number and everything.
I most definitely. And I've created my own Crime Stopper flyers, because Dallas police told me that Armani's case didn't qualify for Dallas Crime Stoppers. And I
Oh,
was like,
really?
you gotta be kidding. Yes. So I
Mm.
created my own Crime Stopper flyer. And it was up on Uncovered's time line, but I can email it to you if you don't have it.
Yes, please, because I wasn't able to go through the link. Like, by the
Mhm.
time I go and did a more review of the
Mhm.
timeline,
Mhm.
um, I didn't have much to kind of go on, and then the only thing I had was a link to a Daily Beast so I was like, I really don't like Daily Beast. Daily Beast is kind of
Right, because he did me no justice in that interview.
I
No.
can see y'all nothing but caca, just like
Yes,
it didn't feel right. My heart, my gut, it just didn't feel right in regards to how they were
exactly.
identifying Armani and how things were
Mhm.
going on. So it brings back the time when I was younger. I've always loved listening to elders. I never was the kid who ran outside and played, and
Mhm.
I was a bookworm, and I love listening when the elders talked about their family, the good old days, the war,
Mhm.
the not so good old days, history about the culture, I thought that was more enriching than, climbing a tree or playing
Mhm.
tag with some um kids down the street that are actually
Mhm.
no good anyways in the end.
Exactly.
I wanted to increase my knowledge. This goes right back to education. I
Exactly.
wanted to become more educated about where I come from, who are my ancestors, how to respect our culture, how to keep pushing forward and fighting that good fight,
Mhm.
doing the
Mhm.
thing, and it just kind of it brings back that feeling of warmth, but now it's kind of added on to this bittersweet
Mhm.
because we're talking about someone who is still um in your heart and you're still fighting for their voices to be heard.
Yes.
um this is a different level of that, and I just know that when you say keep pushing it, I am so glad you're doing this because
Mhm.
it needs to be done.
Yes. Yes. I would be remiss if I, wouldn't continue to push forward because, this is another piece of me, that's missing, even though he's not my biological son, is still my blood, you
Mhm.
know.
Mhm.
And the fact that his mom is not in a mental space to fight for her son, it's heartbreaking to actually see her, wearing this grief. This grief has just really changed her physically, and it's hard to watch every day. It's just hard to see,
Mhm.
and not only that, my youngest daughter, she always thought that she was Armani's mom, instead of his cousin, and it was like they were more sisters and brothers than first cousins because she's just a year older than he is. And well, wouldn't say a year older because before she would actually turn another full year, Money was turning the same age. They would be the same age before the end of the year would change, but his birthday is December the 19th. So, you know, or the year would end, they would be the same age.
Hmm.
And my oldest daughter, who is 5 years older than my youngest daughter, her birthday is the same day, as Armani. So it's always bittersweet,
Oh, wow.
when their birthdays roll around, and it's just like 6 days before Christmas, you know, and it's just like, it's hard to actually celebrate,
Mhm.
you know,
Mhm.
uh, her birthday, but you don't want to rob her of that, opportunity as well. So we've had to, just figure out ways to be able to cope, but still be able to celebrate her birthday because, she's still here, and they all had a bond together because I always had them all together, and it was more like they were all siblings versus, first cousins, because where you would see one, you would see my two, and then you would see my other niece, and then Armani. So I had four children with me at all times, you
Wow.
know. So it's a hard pill to swallow. It's
Mhm.
it's a
Mhm.
hard pill to swallow.
Mm. And I'm also born in December too, a couple days before the 19th. So
Wow.
Sagittarius, man.
They
Yes. We
are
are,
forced to be reckoned with.
yes.
Yes. Yes.
Firecracker. I always talk about it like, don't get me started. I tell my kids, I like, if you see me stumbling around, mumbling on my breath, cursing or something, or just let me be because I just got out of a Zoom call with a family member. Just let
Mhm,
me come to make a little.
mhm, mhm.
Uh-huh.
And
Yeah, I get fired up.
that takes me back to, like I said, you know, people would wrongfully assume that our money, they would be able to push him over, easily, or to take advantage of him easily. But that wasn't the case. Like you said, firecracker. That's
Mm.
exactly who and what he was. When you rubbed him the wrong way, or try to do harm to him, he was able to defend himself.
Mhm.
That's one thing I can say, because in it all, it tells us too that the people responsible for his death, um, these were people that he knew, and it's evident because of where they dumped him. They dumped him a few feet away from the apartment where he lived. When I say a few feet, I mean a few feet. And where his body was lying and decaying up under this huge tree and this bush line, you know, and it rained so much in between the time he was missing and to when his remains were unexpectedly discovered.
Mm.
The few rib bones and the one long bone and his purse were embedded in the soil
Mm.
underneath this huge tree. But his clothing was scattered amongst this vacant field,
Mhm.
and you could see rips and tears in the clothing. And I would always ask, okay, well, were the clothing tested? And never received a response.
Mm.
And right today, um, the homicide division has no idea that I actually have the crime scene photos
Mm.
in my possession.
Good.
And
Good.
what angers me the most is that they did not treat his crime scene in a professional manner. They had no markings, no markers, no evidence markers.
Mhm.
What they did do was lay out a blue tarp, plastic tarp of some kind, and just as though they were just haphazardly picking up trash from the street and just dumped his remains in a pile onto this blue tarp. The few bones that they were able to collect. I mean, his skull was found laying alongside the edge of the street, and one of his long bones was found laying in the middle of the road, and the other few real bones and another long bone was embedded in the soil up underneath that big tree line. But again, his purse, some of the
Mm.
items from his purse were strode about. The hairbrush that he always used to brush his hair was
Mhm.
strode about. And like I said, his clothing, the short pants and the top that he was last seen wearing when he was alive, it was shredded. Don't know what actually caused the rips and tears in it, but it was weather rotted. The clothing was rather weather rotted, from where it had rained and the weather changed and got dry, and but it was but they picked it up and just piled it in one pile on this blue tarp,
No
you know.
respect. No
Yes,
respect. Oh my
exactly.
god. So,
And
I do apologize for cutting you off, but I don't even because knowing that I live in Dallas, if you said that he was literally they found his remains like a skip and a hop and a jump from where he resided.
mhm.
Are you able to express exactly where this all happened, or are you trying to keep that closer to the chest in regards to
No,
investigation?
it was Balch, the street name is spelled Balch Road.
Oh, boss. Okay.
And the cross street is Wilhurt Avenue, which is Wilhurt Avenue is the street that the apartment complex is on.
Okay. Okay. Sorry about that. I just
A few feet from where he lived,
mm, mm,
in a vacant field underneath this huge tree. So the people that dumped him there knew exactly what they were doing. Knew exactly what they were doing. And that further lets us know that these were people that knew him.
Mhm.
and wanted to make a statement by dumping him there.
What kinda I mean, I'm just thinking my mind's racing now, like, what kind of statement are they trying to make? Like, that's just t
To let us know that these were people that he weren't afraid of and associated himself with on a regular basis.
hmm.
For them to dump him there, so close to home. You know, that's a statement if one was ever going to be made. You
Yeah,
know.
I'm just thinking, like, all I could think of is these people didn't give
Mm-mm,
2 rats about the respect in talking about this fake friendship that they wanted to
mm-hmm,
continue on with Armani. Like, to
mm-hmm,
me, that was what they did and how they
mm-hmm,
left him there
mm-hmm,
right by where he resided, where they live.
mm-hmm.
To me, uh, I'm trying to find the proper words without cursing because I have a sailor mouth. If you haven't heard, I will start doing all of that. So, low lifes, no
Yes.
good for nothing,
Mm-hmm,
fake
mm-hmm,
bleepity bleeps.
mm-hmm,
Mm, mm, mm.
mm-hmm,
Shame, shameless. No
yes.
respect for themselves, no respect for life, no respect for Armani, no respect for his
Mm-hmm,
family, no respect for, they probably hate the way they can't stand the way they breathe. They can't stand the way they woke up that morning. They can't stand the job that they have. They can't stand how
mm-hmm,
the clothes that they got on their back and the food that
mm-hmm.
is on their plate. Like they probably just hate life in general. The way they
Exactly.
treated life,
Mm-hmm,
mm-mm.
mm-hmm.
Armani,
Yeah.
I am
And
so sorry.
look how karma came back and
Mm,
delivered a little piece of justice when the co-perpetrator was involved in additional crimes and someone did the same thing to him that he did to Armani.
mm, tell me more.
And when I found out about this perpetrator's passing, again from the people in the streets,
Mm, mm-mm.
like I said, 90% of what our family was told from people in the street panned out to be true. And when I received a text message telling me that this particular perpetrator um, uh, had been shot and killed, I
Mm,
reached out to the assistant chief of police at that time. I reached out to his assistant,
mm,
who was always in constant direct contact with me whenever I wanted to get a meeting with the assistant chief of police before he left the Dallas Police Department. I would go through her. She and I text each other, via cell phone. And I reached out to her and I asked her, I said, well, I heard that this person was shot and killed. Can you confirm this for me? And she said, well, no, I can't confirm it for you at this time. I said, okay, well, no need to. I go to the funeral website and there it was. You don't have to confirm it. It's confirmed already,
mm.
because the pictures that I had forwarded to the Dallas police homicide division of this particular person was the photo that they used for his obituary.
Ain't that butter? Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
And
You found a
and
way around it. Like there's a will, there's a way. Oh, you want to
mm-hmm,
play this game of no comment? I can't give
mm-hmm,
you that information. Oh,
mm-hmm,
let me go look at the obits.
mm-hmm. Well,
Done.
it's already factual for
Right.
people on the streets to be even bringing it to me in the first place.
Right.
It's not like he hadn't been identified already.
Exactly. Like, why are you blocking me? Why are you blocking me? Just let me pass because I'm gonna find a way. Stop
Exactly.
blocking.
Because when I provided his name to the initial homicide detective, I didn't have his legal name. All I had was the street name that
Oh,
he was going by. But
yeah.
they knew his name,
Yeah.
but they never told me.
Mm.
And believe it or not, Jasmine, when I made the open records request at the Dallas Police Department for a copy of Armani's entire file, once they told me they were no longer going to investigate his case, I said, okay, well, they should be willing to give me all of the records that I'm asking for if they're no longer going to investigate the case and it's considered a cold case. So I
Right.
made the request And the information that I received back that was supposed to be the initial homicide detective's homicide narrative notes, non-existent. It was pieces of copy paper with chicken scratch going up one side, down one side. I mean, just very few pages. You know, he would put a date and a time here and say he spoke to this person. He had my name written down, Robin Johnson, but no notes or no facts or anything, you know, around my name. And had my youngest daughter's name written down and had a date and a time, but nothing else about what he actually did.
That sounds like they were just taking notes with you. Either you were on the phone with them or you were in that little conference with them or something and just chicken scratch everything and thought that was just done.
And
No,
thought
you
it was
have
never going to come up.
yeah, you have the Freedom of Information Act. You have your rights.
But I can tell you that they did not give me his entire file, copy of his entire file. I can tell you that for sure.
Oh, for sure.
And what the Texas Ranger did tell me, I reached out to his supervisor once I was told that the Texas Ranger had met with the Dallas, with the assistant chief of police before he left the Dallas Police Department. And he was supposed to be meeting them at that point to obtain a copy of Armani's file in order for him to perform his investigative review. And so once I reached out to his supervisor with the Texas Ranger, he emailed me back and told me that he would have the Texas Ranger to contact me via email. And then this way I would have a direct communication with this person. And so the Texas Ranger did email me. It was February of 2020. I mean, it was December of 2021. And he let me know, he said, I did meet with the Dallas, with the assistant chief of police in February of this year. He said, I was supposed to have obtained a copy of Armani's entire file in February. He said, but I did not get it until the day before Thanksgiving of 2021. So he didn't get it as the Dallas police told me. They told me he had it in February, but through his personal email, he told me I did not obtain his records until the day before Thanksgiving, 2021.
It's like almost 2 years? No? Oh my goodness gracious.
So, you know, he said, and now that I have it, it's going to take me a while to go through it. He said, because it's a big file, a huge file. So that tells me that they didn't give me everything. If he has a huge file, what I have is not a huge file. So, you know, but I anytime I want him to know something, I tell him, I emailed the Texas Ranger and I said, well, I've requested that Dallas Homicide, the Homicide Division, obtain a copy of this perpetrator's county jail phone calls and his state prison phone calls to obtain information that's going to be helpful to Armani's case. They failed to do it. Hopefully you will.
Right.
You know.
So they're doing what Dallas police were supposed to be doing. So someone's actually on the case currently, but it's a slow process.
Yes.
Oh
yes.
Lord.
Yes. And who knows how long that's going to drag out, because he did tell me that his duties take precedence over him actually performing his investigative review of Armani's case, which is why I requested that they please allow the Texas Attorney General's newly formed cold case unit to actually, you know, perform an investigative review as well.
Right.
You know, and because I've actually communicated with this person, and she told me, she said, well, we would have to get permission through law enforcement, you know, get the request from them and not from you, which is just what happened with the Texas Rangers. So that supervisor and Texas Rangers told me, he said, we don't take requests from family members and citizens. We have to get the request from law enforcement. So I said, okay, well, I got a direct line to the assistant chief of police. Let me contact him and ask him, will he do it?
Yeah, done and done, Robin.
Done and done, you know. So, I'm gonna
Man.
keep pushing on it
Yes,
to
please.
get them to agree, or just tell me they're not gonna do it. Just tell, if you're not gonna do it, tell me you're not gonna do it.
Mm-hmm.
And this stepping on somebody's toes, I don't want to hear that, because FBI, investigate other cases that other entities are already investigating. So what makes this so special?
Exactly. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
done and done.
Yeah.
Robin is on it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
On it. Oof.
And the sad part about it too, Jasmine, in 2018, because of all the pushback I kept getting from the initial homicide detective,
Mhm.
uh, Armani's mom and myself and my youngest daughter actually obtained an attorney in an attempt to file a civil rights case against the Dallas Police Department and the city of Dallas, because because of their lack of due care in actively pursuing and investigating Armani's case.
Yeah.
In the bias and the discrimination and predetermined theory of this particular homicide detective, it angered me. So, I wanted something done about it, because what he said just negatively impacted Armani's case from the start. And it's still
Yes.
happening,
Yes.
And so we hired an attorney, but it just fell apart at the seams, because he was just only after our money and not interested in actually doing right by us, and had to ask for the retainer back, and he wasn't willing to give the retainer back. And come to find out, he had a disbarred attorney working for him,
Mm.
who pretended to be the actual practicing attorney throughout this whole 12-month communication with me via telephone and email.
Mm.
He
Mm-mm.
pretended to be the actual attorney who actually owned the law firm.
Mm.
And once we walked into that first face-to-face meeting with him, I'm looking at him, because the bio on the legalmatch.com, these are not the same two people.
Hmm.
And I'm like, okay, wait a minute. We walk in, we sit down, and we start talking. He's saying all the right things, well, we're going to pursue this, and you have a right, and this is a violation of Armani's civil rights as well as yours, and we're going to do this, and we're going to do everything, and we'll walk into the meetings with you guys down at the police department. And, as we're sitting there, and I asked him, I said, okay, well, now that we got that out the way, let me ask you, why are you sitting here when the person that I've been communicating with is not sitting here? He's, well, I am the person that you've been communicating with. I said, well, so are you William Pig? He said, well, my name is William, but I'm not William Pig. He said, I'm the, what did he call himself? He didn't say he's the, he didn't say that he's the clerk. I'm the intake for the attorney, is what he told me. And I said, okay. So I said, do you have a business card? He didn't have a business card. He didn't want to give me a business card. He wrote his name and information down on a yellow sticky note and handed it to me, So we paid the $2,500 and left with the copy of the retainer, the legal contract that we all signed, all three of us signed, and obtaining this lawyer as as our legal representative. Get home, it just still wasn't settling right with me. So I get on the internet and I look up this name on the yellow sticky, disbarred attorney. And his name was William Nellis. So they both had the first name William. One went by Bill and one went by Bob. So I said, okay. And I immediately called back to the office. This was a day before a holiday. And so I said, well, because what really sent up a red flag, Jasmine, was minutes before we were to go to this law office for this first initial meeting, he called me to ask if we could bring cash instead of a cashier's check. And I was like, wait a minute, for what, why? He said, because I want my part in cash, and Bill can do whatever he want to do with his part. You can bring that in a check, but I want mine in cash. And I was like, okay. So
Okay.
we went with half cash and half cashier's check because Armani's mom had already got her portion in a cashier's check. I said, now I wanted you to do that, but I'll take a risk on my cash because guess what? Anything go wrong, I'm getting my money back. And that's exactly what ended up happening. So I emailed the attorney that actually owned the law firm and asked for a meeting with him. I said, can we please sit down for a meeting? I said, because there's some things that are not sitting right with me. And so he said, okay. And he agreed to the meet. I went back by myself to this face-to-face meeting with him. And we sat down and he went to do this bill. We need to hire a private investigator and this and that. And I said, no, we're not spending money on a private investigator. What we want you to do is to represent us in a civil rights case against the detective and the Dallas Police Department as a whole. And he said, okay. And he said, because I can get, talking about the intake person, to actually perform the investigative duties. And I was like, okay, set up another red flag, okay. And I'm sitting there, didn't tell him all the time that I knew this guy was a disbarred attorney. But he's doing all of the things that a lawyer actually does. Communicating with me, misleading me, making me think that he's the actual practicing attorney when all along he's just the intake person. I said, okay. And so as the meeting was ending, and I said, well, when are you actually going to sign this contract agreeing to be our attorney? I said, because you didn't sign it the day we came in and left $2,500. He said, okay, I'll sign it for you today. He signed it. Boom, that's all I needed. We left. I left the meeting, and so I get back home and I emailed the practicing attorney, and I asked him, well, why didn't you feel it necessary to inform me and my family that this was a disbarred attorney and he's misrepresenting himself as the practicing attorney? And everything just came apart at that point. He wanted to have another meeting with all three of us. We arranged this meeting, and I told my sister Armani's mom and my daughter, when we walk into this meeting, I'm the only one talking. Don't say a word. We walk in, and I had already typed up the thing, just dismissing his services, telling him we no longer need his services at this point. And so we were sitting there talking, and he see that we are all quiet. He could tell the look on our faces. We weren't having it this day. And so he said, well, do you have any questions? And I told him, I said, well, we're just going to let you talk and we're just going to listen today. And he finished saying what he had to say. And I said, are you finished? And he said, yeah. So I took this paper out, and I passed it in front of them. We signed it in front of them. I let Armani's mom sign first, and my daughter signed next. Then I said, he said, oh, you finna hand that to me? I said, yes, I am. He said, what is that? I said, well, we no longer need your services, and we're requesting a refund of the $2,500 because you're allowing unlawful practice of law here in your office. So we no longer want you to represent us, because if you're going to allow him to do this and you knowingly allow him to work in your office, we don't want this service. And he said, well, I'm not going to give you your full refund back. He said, I can tell you that right now. I said, okay. So I said, well, what I need is a copy of this that we've all signed, and I'm going to leave this here with you. So we go out, he and he get his receptionist to make a copy of it, and we leave a copy of it with him, and we will all walk out. He said, you have nothing else to say? We're through talking. And he thought he was just going to bully me. And so I went and filed a complaint with the Texas State Bar to let them know what happened. And about a month later, we went to the meeting. Armani's mom had to take her with me. And we sitting there around this table full of lawyers. And I was questioned. And Armani's mom was sitting there quiet. She didn't have anything to say because they didn't address her. It was me. And I let the lawyers around the table know what happened. And so the attorney, practicing attorney, was represented by his attorney, and they all sit there and they tried to color this thing as though, we were sitting there and just didn't know, we're just dumb. And so I presented all the evidence. They ruled in our favor. We got the $2,500 back, and it was a wrap.
Nice. Yep.
So I've tried to fight this every which way that I could. If I was able to get that civil rights lawsuit done, I believe we would have been further along in Armani's case by now.
Right, right.
Because that would have forced Dallas Homicide to come forward and do their job.
Here's the thing, like, it is kind of like a full circle and understand, like, why do they continue to have you run around and, like, they're getting paid their income and salary, and they have all the details and information. They have everything they have for the investigation, but yet they put you on the wheel to do their job, to elongate the investigation, to make you think that you're gonna run out of steam, that, you know, or because of the whole scenario of having the thought of Armani having a record. Everybody has their ups and downs in regards, or they're recovering addict, or if they're currently addict, or if they live a lifestyle that's beyond the means of a normal lifestyle. They're trying to get, they survival. This is survival mode.
Exactly.
And no one's life is lesser than that, than anyone else's life, just because of what they're doing, their occupation, their status, their orientation, their color. I just cannot wrap my mind around in regards to why did they let that, and then on top of that, like, why does a family have to go through the process of doing civil rights and doing these, filing a case against, or filing charges against this department, this law enforcement? All you could have done, that straight line right there. That's all you had to do.
Protect and serve.
And this would have been done in 3 months flat. I'm just saying a guesstimation. It would not be taking
5 years.
all this time, 5 years. Gosh. And I wanted to actually, I didn't want to cut you off in regards when you were talking about the documentaries that you were, because I was going to say they were nothing but sharks.
Yes.
I had to put my little sense in there.
Yes. Exactly.
But no here nor there. That's I just wanted to put that in there where we can keep going. I digress.
And even when MTV True Crime did their documentary on this transgender female that was assaulted and murdered
Malaysia.
here in Dallas, Malaysia Booker, they featured Armani's, one of his county jail mugshots, and they only referred to Armani case as the skeletal remains found in the field. Didn't mention his name, only referred to transgender deaths. And I was like, I kept telling the homicide detective, do not lump Armani's murder in with these other murders, because Armani's murder happened in 2017. These transgender murders didn't start happening until 2019 in Dallas, at a rapid pace. So don't lump his in with these transgender murders. I said, because Armani was relentlessly pursued by these 3 people that we are aware of. And it's not like, because Malaysia Booker was violently attacked in the parking lot of the apartment complex where Armani lived, but that made national news, statewide. Every time you turn on the news, you were hearing it, and then a couple of the other transgender females, their cases made the news, but whenever Armani's case is brought up, it's only referred to as skeletal remains were found in 2017. Then they rolled forward to 2019, and I was just like, you're not doing him any justice, only referring to his case as remains found. Mention his name.
That's the reason why we say that. Say their name, say his name. Their lives matter. Like in regards to now, I just want to make sure, did Armani identify himself as transgender? Or was he, or did he fall under, because I want to make sure that I have that come across with clarification, because if you stated that there was some articles that were mislabeling him under
Mhm.
a certain type of orientation or a certain type of group of people.
Mhm.
If he didn't fall in there, I want to make sure that that's straight and clear. So please tell me exactly, because I know that you did have here on the notes that in the beginning of our conversation that his pronouns were he, him, and
Mhm.
you're not sure as to why he was clumped in the category of transgender woman.
Mhm.
What made that come across as there are news articles or the public identifying him as a transgender woman? How did that happen?
uh the like for instance the Daily Beast article that Justin Glaw printed when he did a telephone interview with me, he asked me specifically, did Armani identify as transgender? And I told him specifically no. He identified to us as gay, and as I mentioned in my notes to you, that he would, before he was completely comfortable enough in his skin to wear female clothing on a regular basis, he would dress as a male during the day and then would dress as a female at night, you know. And until he actually became comfortable enough in his skin to dress as a female all day, at that point he began wearing wigs and dressed as a female on a regular basis. But until then, he would switch it up. And we even well, I would say, I even asked him, was he identifying as transgender or is he identifying gay? He said, I'm gay, which is what he told me, personally and directly.
Okay.
So, and there's nothing against people identifying as transgender.
Mhm.
It's just how people personally choose to identify themselves.
Right. And I respect that because that was the reason why I wanted to ask because like I said, I don't like looking at these articles.
Mm-hmm.
This is like playing telephone. Like
Mm-hmm.
so and so, so and so, so and so. Oh yeah, that's what it was. Let's just go and throw that in there because that's
Mm-hmm.
what I thought I heard or whatever. But no, I mean, I want to make sure that I respect Armani and your
Mm-hmm.
family. And if he's identified as a gay man, then
Mm-hmm.
I will respect that because I it's kind of a win-win for me. I am a queer community. I mean,
Right.
I'm in the queer community. So
Right.
LGBTQIA plus whichever. So I respect that.
Right.
And to be a black man on top of that, like,
Exactly.
woo,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And people always want to
struggle is real.
yeah, people always want to twist the narrative to fit what they want said, you
Shock
know.
it's for shock value.
And that's what Justin did in his Daily Beast article. He wanted to get more notoriety and want his story to be viewed more by adding transgender into it when he specifically asked me and I said no.
Mm,
So
mm, mm.
he did it anyway, the way that he wanted to print it.
Shock value. Mm, mm,
Mm-hmm.
mm.
Mm-hmm.
People are
Yep.
ruthless. No respect at all.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, if you looked at my podcast, my videos, I try to keep it real. Like you
Mm-hmm.
say,
Yes.
black and white,
Yes.
because I know these are people's lives. This is your family. This is your loved one that we're talking about, and I want to
Okay.
respect that and give the recognition because that's all it needs to be. We don't need to be putting all these little buffers and
Yes.
additions that have nothing to do with the narrative.
That's true.
They're trying to find a ways to kind of um, play the trickery of the visual trickery and trying to keep the person or keep people from understanding the truthfulness of this story, the reason for this fight, the reason for this, looking for justice and voicing our family in this.
Yes.
Robin, you are on point with all the answering of the questions. It's like that's exactly what I want. I want you to run with this
Mm-hmm.
is all you. This is your stage. And I just sit here, I'm sitting back just doing
Mm-hmm.
whatever I can, like, yes, Robin, keep going, keep going. I am
Because
so
it's a lot to take in, and I sit back
yes.
some days and I just I think back over this uphill battle. I'm not only fighting to get justice for Armani against his perpetrators, but I'm fighting with the Dallas Homicide Division to do their job.
Yes.
You know, in order to get justice, you know, for Armani. And it's just it's a hard pill to swallow.
Mm.
It's a hard pill to swallow.
But I'm just
But it's
saying, I completely agree. But I bet you anything that pill's gonna be even harder and bigger pill to swallow when it comes down when the gavel hits that thing saying that there's a civil suit and they got
yes.
to take their own medicine. So say you want to play the play, you want to play the game. How
Mm-hmm.
you say you F around and find out scenario?
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah, that's one of
Yeah.
those scenarios.
Mm-hmm. And just like they always tell me, there's not a statute of limitation on murder. So I need to find out what the statute of limitation is on these civil rights suits, because I haven't been able to obtain an attorney that's willing to take on the civil rights case in this situation.
Mm.
But I'm not going to stop looking for one in this case, because I'm right and I know I'm right.
Mm-hmm. You are.
You know, there's been so many injustices against Armani, although he's no longer here. But there's also been a lot of injustices towards me, against me, because I'm fighting for justice for him.
Exactly.
You know.
Exactly.
But it's a fight that I'll continue until until the Lord says different, with me.
Exactly.
Because as long as there's breath in my body and I'm still in my right mind, I'm continuing the fight.
Yes.
Because not only are you disrespecting him, you're disrespecting me as well.
Of course.
Because and it just fuels my fight for justice even more when people insult my intelligence.
Mm.
When you insult my intelligence, you see a whole nother human being.
Mm.
Mm-hmm.
I'm the same way. Oh,
Mm-hmm.
okay. Let me let me tell you a little thing or two.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Don't let this cuteness and politeness, don't take advantage. I think that's exactly what Sagittarius are. We're cute and so
Mm-hmm.
so thoughtful, so considerate, but don't. There's a
Mm-hmm.
couple of things that you don't cross.
Mm-hmm.
You don't disrespect my family. You don't disrespect my children. You don't disrespect my culture. You don't.
Mm-hmm.
You messing with Robin.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, hold on. Let me go ahead and pull these earrings off because it's gonna
Mm-hmm.
get nasty in here, and we're gonna stand up for this because
Mm-hmm.
this is justice. This is rights. We have rights.
Mm-hmm.
That's
Mm-hmm.
all. I
Yeah.
am so proud that you are doing this. Oh
Yeah.
my gosh.
And like I
Mhm.
say too, by Armani being my sister's only son and only child,
Yes.
I put myself in her position, in her shoes a lot. If it were me, I would
Yes.
want somebody to do the same for me, and my two children. So, in not only that, the relationship between Armani and I helped to raise him, so it's a void for me, you
Yes.
know, as well. And again, like I say, just watching the grief on his mom's face, she's just, her whole physical appearance has changed because she's wearing that grief, like a suit of armor, and
Mm.
it's just hard to see some days,
Mm.
I don't take what's going on, lightly,
Oh no.
and for granted, because, you know, today is today, but tomorrow can be something totally different,
For sure.
in any of our situations. And just to watch her go through it, and then some days, you can tell when she's trying to be happy and upbeat, but it's really not there.
Mm.
And I can tell you, Jasmine, for the longest of time until here, almost recently, she went to that cemetery every day, 7 days a week. And, then when she couldn't, because she doesn't have her own transportation, and when she couldn't get myself or somebody else to take her, and it would be a day or two or maybe a week in between, you could tell it was just wearing on her. Just like, on Armani's birthday, um, this past year, and I asked her, I said, well, do you want to go on his birthday or do you want to go the day before? And she said, well, I want to go the day before. I said, well, let's go on his birthday to put flowers on it. And he's in a crematorium niche, because he had to be cremated. And so there's not even enough space to actually put flowers because it's in this marble wall, and there's not a cup to actually place flowers. You have to slide it into the side, but we make it work. And so then turn around, and it was New Year's. So she was actually able to get someone to take her on New Year's Day. And, and then she's been going every day, since then. And like I said, we don't know, what her thoughts are because she's not voicing it, and she's internalizing it, and you can see it because it's showing physically, and it's, my heart just breaks for her because you just never know what she's thinking because she's not saying it. She's just wearing that grief. And for that to have been her only child, it's just, I can't even imagine how she feels. So, I do as much for her as she will let me do.
Right,
Then, I have to back, away to give her personal space, to allow her that time, because I don't want to always be on top of her, because I wouldn't want anybody to do it to me. So,
Yeah, not to be on top of her, but at least an arm's length away. Because even though I'm the only child as well, so I'm just thinking of the process, like what would happen if my mother, like this is how we should be thinking. Like, what would happen if this was my child? What would happen if this was my brother and my sister, my loved, my husband, my aunt, my uncle, whatever. Y'all need to think like this. You think it has nothing to do, this has no way to phase you in any shape or form because it's in a different community. It's in a different state. If it's a different, scenario, it's a different, whatever is the case may be. No.
yes.
We're all connected. This should affect you as if it is happening to you right now. Take the consideration and respect that. Like, this is human life. This is a loved one. I'm just thinking to myself, like, because I mean, I have 3 boys, but I'm like, Lord, oh Lord, just the thought, like, nobody would want to wish this on anybody at all. This is by far, I mean, it's always that saying, like, how do you say it? I wouldn't wish this on anybody because the only person that should be passing away, that's the parental thing, is like the parent is supposed to die before the child, not the other way around. And it seemed like it's been happening more and more and more. It's it's overwhelming.
And the fact that we are humans first before we are anything else,
Exactly.
and your disregard for human life it says a lot about you. If you disregard my life as a human, then what do you want? How do you want to be treated?
Exactly.
So, but and like I've said too, it's the people that Armani associated himself with, and he was naive to a fact, to a default, because he just assumed that they had his best interest at heart when they didn't. And since his passing, we can see it, because I loved him. And I saw my cousin in California located this Facebook Live recording of this female. She was in her 40s. She's in her 40s. She's 40 or 41, but she said she was a friend of Armani's, and she cried and she was upset when she found out what happened, but still, she hadn't even reached out to law enforcement to tell what she knew, or leading up, because she said in her Facebook Live interview that she had just seen him. Don't know what she meant by that or how recent it was or anything like that. But if it was so close to the time that these other two females, saw him, because Armani went to these two young ladies. So you never know what steps he took in between that time frame, which would have been helpful if they, if this person would have come forward and actually stated the time frame in which this was that she saw him last. Never know. And it's in, like the law enforcement always say, it's going to take that one little thing, something that everybody think is not significant. It's going to be significant in this case.
Right, right.
It's just going to take somebody to come forward and say it.
Oh, for sure. I have actually one question. If there was any additional things that you wanted to add, but I had one question.
Okay.
If Armani was able to drop by and visit tomorrow, mom, you, family, all his nieces, nephews, cousins, whichever, or just to have a little moment to yourself, or to have the if Armani's mother was able to talk and express, and I know that okay, I'm trying not to cry, but what would the ideal day spent together look like?
Doing something that he always dreamed of, which was having his own beauty shop. He loved doing hair and fashion. I could just see it now, a grand opening, him doing a grand opening at his hair studio. He would do these female associates of his, he would even do their hair, and would always want to put together an outfit for everybody. He would even try to dress his mom all the time. He would tell her, he said, now, that was back in your day. He said, but you need to come up to date with this fashion. And he would even purchase outfits for her. And I mean, beautiful clothes, and tell her, he said, now, next time I see you, need to be wearing this, and like I said, he taught himself, being around us, older aunts and his grandmother, my mother, watching us cook. He paid attention, because when he, like I say, he was a latchkey kid, and when he would be at home by himself, he would cook, and you could tell he was practicing, because when we would all come together during these holidays, and he would bring out something he cooked, ooh, it was good, So that's what he would be doing if he was here today. That's what we would be doing, celebrate him accomplishing his dream, establishing his own business, doing hair. So that was his first love, and fashion was the next, and then cooking, But he was doing something there where he, like I said, it's by him being an only child, always wanted to have everybody together, everybody to be happy, everybody to have a smile on their face. And if you walked into a room and you had a bad day, wouldn't take long for him to put a smile on your face, and then you would think back, like, I came in here and I was mad, I was upset, but he's gonna put on a show and make sure that everybody around him, can feel his energy, which was always upbeat, always, no matter what was going on. And I believe he did that too, more so because he didn't have that personal relationship with his biological father, which is something that you don't have, that you're missing, you want it even more. And that's what he wanted. And he looked for love in all the wrong places, You know,
Mhm.
even though he was loved by his family, he was still looking for love in all the wrong places. You know, in that, you know, was part of, you know, what I look at all the time. You know, it had these people really truly cared about him, you know, then he would still be here. He would still be here because they wouldn't want to take him from everybody, you know, that they knew loved him.
Right.
You know, because if you call yourself his friend and then you do these things to him, then you didn't care about him.
Yeah, I see
You didn't
that.
care about it
I
because he wasn't
see
a
it.
selfish person.
Mhm.
He wasn't a selfish
Mm-mm.
person at all.
I see, 'cause and you are so that is so true. When you can't find that love at
Hmm.
home, we
Hmm.
overcompensate in looking
Hmm.
for it and we take risks.
Yes.
We will like lose our lives, and it's
Hmm.
unfortunate. We will lose our lives to find that love, that connection, that bonding, because humans are always constantly searching
Hmm.
for human connection on
Hmm.
every level, spiritual, physical, sexually, whatever
Hmm.
level that we're looking for.
Hmm.
Um, and it's oh my gosh, yeah,
Yeah.
I hate that because we the whole point of looking for love, it should come so
Easy.
easily
Hmm.
in another
Hmm.
hurdle. Like this is yeah, yeah.
Hmm.
I
And the
feel
sad part too is that the same sex partner uh had a live-in girlfriend, and he hid his same sex relationship with Armani from his live-in girlfriend, and also from his,
really?
yeah, and also from his family. You know, his
What?
immediate family didn't have any idea that he was in a same-sex relationship with another man. Because
Mm.
when Armani passed, he was 27 years old. He was a man. He
Mm.
was a man. So this same sex partner, once his live-in girlfriend found out about the relationship between her live-in boyfriend and Armani, she was livid. She
Mm.
called Armani on his home landline phone, and they argued, and Armani told her, you know, why are you upset with me because your man decided that he wanted another man?
Uh,
You
I,
know, yeah.
no, I never understood that.
Hmm.
Go to the horse. Go to the
Hmm.
source. Like
Hmm.
it's a saying, like, go to the source. Oh,
Hmm.
it's just my mind is blown on how well, I think it has a lot to do with also like the thinking of, well, they were enticing and trying to,
Hmm.
lure them into this
Hmm.
relationship, and like
Hmm.
my man, my girlfriend, she wouldn't do that on her
Hmm.
own. It's almost like an Adam and Eve kind of a mentality. Well, Eve gave me that apple, so it must be Eve's fault that Adam took it. Like this some BS right there. No,
Yes, yes.
hold the actions of people accountable to
Hmm.
those people, not
Yes.
to
Hmm.
redirect and find someone else for, well, my man wouldn't have done that. That was
Hmm.
so and so's fault. No.
Hmm. Hmm. And the crazy part too, Jasmine, is that from me reading the same-sex partners police reports, because the same-sex partners police reports were included in the copy of the entire files that I received regarding Armani's case, because evidently this initial homicide detective actually pulled all the police reports of the female perpetrator and also of the same-sex partners, pulled their police reports, so they were included in the copies of the files that I did receive through the Open Records Act. And the same-sex partner had uh, choked this female unconscious, and which speaks to the level of physical violence
Mhm.
that he inflicted upon Armani. Because at one point, this same-sex partner, once Armani informed him that he no longer wanted to be in this relationship, then the same-sex partner became increasingly physically violent, toward Armani. I guess he was just gonna beat him into submission and make him stay, with him. And this same-sex partner had pistol whipped Armani at one point and had a gash over the top of one of his eyes. And my youngest daughter took him to the emergency room for that. And then it was another occasion where they were in a physical altercation, and Armani was, trying to defend himself, but the same-sex partner being a little bit taller and not that much physically larger than Armani, but had a little bit more muscle. That altercation was brutal, and Armani still needed to go to the ER, to receive medical attention. So that speaks to his level of violence and his, capability and involvement. And as I said, all three of these perpetrators knew each other well, and they all had a vendetta against Armani, and they all had physically assaulted him at some point, and then simultaneously, and just, one right behind the other one, or on the same day. And it's just like, come on.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, the volume of violence, it constantly, after every type of occurrence, it increases. It increases. They get bolder. They get more riskier in their behavior, to the point that they break that line between assault and taking someone's life. It's thin, especially if they've been doing it for a while, and it's been allowed constantly. And then the person who's a victim is like being ignored about, dude, this something's happening here. I need help. And they're like, you're just overreacting, or just kind of completely ignoring him on the report or whatever, or telling the person, oh, the victim is lying. And that's how it happens. There is such a thin line of how far can someone go and pushing it. And then the victim is like, this might be my last opportunity to get the help that I need. And nobody's even batting an eye. And that's the part that really breaks my heart even more. That you see the symptoms, you see the escalation of violence. And it's like a make it or break it, that millisecond of that person's life. Yes. That you could have saved them from that. That moment. And I've had that moment happen in my life. I was in a very domestic violence relationship, and I could see my life between being assaulted in the hospital in a coma, or being buried 6 feet under.
Wow.
It was like that it was a very thin area between save me or I'm gonna die.
Yes.
That's the most scary, fearful moment in someone's life. And it, oh my God.
And Armani he feared his same-sex partner too, because he began to stay home, indoors, more, and not going out, and my daughter noticed it, and she would ask him, what's going on? What's wrong? And he said, I just don't want to. I'm just tired of being assaulted, I'm just tired of fighting, he said, I'm having to fight everybody. And and like I said too, I know that things have to be proven in order for his case to get the justice, but if it's not investigated and looked into, and the I's dotted and the T's crossed, then we'll never get to that next step, And just like I was telling the homicide detective, you took an oath to protect and serve. At what point are you going to start doing them?
We're not going to add an extra zero to your check until that's not going to happen. Not until you actually start doing something. You get your what do you call it, your position review like everybody
Mm.
else.
Mhm.
Mm,
And when we would speak to the medical examiner, the first thing she would always say, well, there were no striations on his bones to indicate that the machete was used. There was no bullet marks. I say, okay, but you only have 6 remains. The fact that his other entire skeletal system is missing, how you make a determination,
mm,
as to what was and wasn't done. You
mm-hmm.
know, the fact that he actually choked a woman unconscious. How do you know he wasn't choked unconscious and killed and laid underneath this tree?
Exactly.
You can't rule it out.
There's always a pattern. There's a
Mm-hmm.
pattern to
Mm-hmm.
yeah. Ooh. Mm,
Telling you,
mm.
it's a lot. It's a lot to digest.
And you and your family and and Armani's mother and
Mm-hmm.
have been carrying this. Mm,
Mm-hmm.
mm,
Mm-hmm. And not in police and the homicide officers not
mm,
even being willing to put forth,
mm,
any true effort to actually investigate.
mm.
It just.
Well, all I can say, Robin, you doing something right
Mm-hmm.
because there's a little quivering in some boots
Yes.
in regards to that. And it's so it's so sad that you have to go and do this. Like to do this to someone. Like,
Mm-hmm.
okay, I'm playing nice. I'm playing respectful. I'm following the rules. I'm doing the guidelines. I'm going through the procedures. I'm going through the protocols and who to contact and what to do. And
Mm-hmm.
I'm thinking I'm doing everything right.
Yes.
And you are literally shutting me down, closing this door, closing that door,
Yes.
putting a barricade there, you
Mm-hmm.
know, changing out, the person who's on the case and not tell
Mm-hmm.
you, and, or just like why? But
Mm-hmm.
Robin was like, I can see all past that BS. Let me keep
Mm-hmm.
going.
Getting too close.
Yes,
Getting too close.
yes.
Mm-hmm.
So, I guess in closing, is there anything else that I might have missed that the listeners need to find a way to voice their opinion or to fight with you or to if there's any other links that they should go directly to, if you had any change.orgs or any other links in supporting or donating or any events that are coming up. I would love to share it with the listeners or just update in regards to where it stands. I know you've mentioned it a couple times where it's leading up to, but is there anything else that you'd like to share with the listeners?
Well, there's someone out there that knows something, say something. And despite all the time that passed by and you haven't come forward, we totally understand. But still, there's that window of opportunity. Come forward, give the information that you know. It could be the littlest thing that could just break this case wide open. So, we just want any of the listeners, on their platforms because, I don't have access to Facebook and Twitter and, I'm just not active on those platforms and those sites. And if I was able to have one, I think with all of the rhetoric you have to weed through, what everybody's giving their personal opinions and different. I don't think that I could mentally handle that part of it based upon everything that I'm having to face with fighting, with the entity that's actually supposed to be on my side, which is law enforcement, versus me fighting against them. But yeah, I would love for anybody listening to this podcast to, if they're here in Texas, have information to please say something, because we need justice for our money. He didn't deserve um, what happened to him, and especially to dump him near home. That's just something that just really sticks with me. The fact that, okay, you do what you do to him, but then you make sure that he's close to home. When you lay him in this vacant field. And that just something that's just really bothers me. It really does.
Mm.
But I want to thank you for this opportunity. And I will be getting a copy of that Crime Stopper flyer that I created to
Yes.
you. And if
Yes.
you don't mind posting it, any way you can on either in all of your platforms, and I will certainly appreciate it. But
Wow.
the fact that I've actually made it to this point to actually be able to speak with you and on your podcast, this is a step in the right direction, something I've been trying to accomplish for over these past 5 years, and I've finally made it.
Yes.
Lets me know that I need to keep going.
Yes.
I have to keep going,
Yes.
because I've made it this far. I never would have, seen myself making it this far, but because, I'm continuing to fight, and that opportunity to do the documentary, it'll come.
Mhm.
It'll come, and I'm not going to give up on that, either.
Mhm.
Hopefully my story will help someone else
Oh, for sure.
too.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Don't
I
give up. Never
No,
give up.
you are such a
Never.
strong, strong woman. I am so glad to be in your presence because
Mhm,
you just mm,
mhm. Let someone else's
thank
no
you.
be your yes.
Thank you. Yep. Yep, yep,
Mhm,
exactly. And I'm glad. I think it just came to a point where this was meant to happen at this moment. Like you said, the Lord has it all.
mhm.
The timeline is already set.
Yes.
This was meant to happen, and
Yes.
I hope that this propels you in
Mhm.
the direction that you're needing to go because don't stop.